So I have a lot of significant dates in my life, and today is a significant date in my life. So it is October 15th, 2022. And 5 years ago today was the first and only time that the person that I consider the love of my life ended things with me. However, I'm looking at things from a new perspective now, and I think I would also like to consider today the day that I kind of became me, the full me, because 5 years ago today, Ben dumped me, but that wasn't all that happened in the aftermath of that. In the days and the weeks coming after that, that was when I decided that I was going to graduate college in 2.5 years. In the days and the weeks and the months following that, that was when I went on stage with Echo Smith. That was when I did so many things that made me me, and unfortunately, he wasn't in my life for a lot of them, and I wish he was, but I had some growing that I had to do on my own. So, he's currently not in my life, but I wouldn't consider him my ex for a couple of reasons. I think he had to do some growing on his own too, that he had been putting off. And I hope that he does it as quickly as he possibly can. I hope it doesn't take 3 years like it took me. And I hope that he can forgive me for kind of being a shitty person at times. There's a lot of layers of irony. I am going to be drawing while I film this, and I am going to be coloring because I have this very vivid memory of about 7 or 8 years ago. I was on a Skype call with him, and I remember he would make fun of me for coloring, and I could never figure out why. And I always liked coloring, and I still like coloring, and it's funny, him and I are very good at existing in the same space together and doing completely opposite things, and just existing together when we're together. And when we're together, we are so good. And when we're apart, I think both of us aren't as good. And I'm still holding on to hope because he didn't leave. He just asked me for some space, and I have had a hard time giving it to him because what I've learned about relationships is that they're 50-50, with the exception of sometimes you need to just set aside and just breathe and just accept that it can't always be 50-50. It has to be give and take, yes, and sometimes you need more help than you can do on your own. And I needed more help, and he didn't give it to me, but I am a very strong person. We all know this about me. And if you don't know this about me, I am very, very strong. And I kind of don't take bullshit. And I've been in therapy, and I've been healing from a lot of things, and I've been undoing a lot of trauma bonds. But there's a difference between trauma bonds and just stuff that happens, and I think we were getting them confused. Because on June 16th, I was raped. And that is something that happened to only me. That is something that will always only happen to me. That day is my day. But that was also the day that we tried again. And I remember waking up that morning. I woke up in Taylor's bed, my best friend's bed. I was between shifts, and I was so excited to finally have a day off tomorrow. And I woke up that day, And I was gonna go to my mom's office and tell her about my relationship, tell her about my partner, tell her. Probably the hardest thing that I did was tell her about my relationship, because I had never let her see that side of me. And yeah, I told her. I woke up, I got ready for my day. I had to go to work later that day. I went to Chick-fil-A in Jersey. I left New York to go to New Jersey, to go to Chick-fil-A, to bring my mom Chick-fil-A so she'd be nicer. And I sat down in her office and I told her, and I showed her pictures of him and I. And she was happy. And she asked me about Ben, and I told her. And I was proud of myself for telling her. I was also proud of myself for, finally getting it right, I thought. And I told her, and I was like, I asked her if she had any jobs available for him so he could eventually move to New York. And she was working on finding one for him. And my mom and I talked, and I showed her pictures of us 5 years ago over the last couple of days. Us in an apple orchard, and just us. Then I showed her some pictures from my birthday this year where I spent it with him. I didn't tell anyone where I was going on my birthday. I just went. And I just did it. And I wouldn't consider that a trauma bond. And if you don't know, I will tell you about my birthday this year. My birthday was on March 7th, 2022. And that was arguably one of the worst days of my life this year. Because I woke up that morning not to birthday texts from my family. I woke up to silence. I woke up to me getting ready for my day, thinking it was weird that I hadn't heard from my dad or my aunt, who usually are always the first ones to say happy birthday to me. And I woke up to silence, and I knew something was wrong. And I go to my aunt's house to see if my aunt's there and, make my rounds like I always do on my birthday. And my uncle's there, and I'm talking to my uncle, and he's telling me that my grandmother's dying. And we don't know if she'll even make it through the day. Happy birthday. It's my 23rd birthday, and nobody likes you when you're 23, but I was dealing with my grandmother dying. And I was, just hoping to make it through the day where I was just gonna have a nice night with my partner, where we were gonna spend my birthday together, because he got a hotel room for me and he was trying to win me back. And he was trying so hard, and it was a good night. It was a really great night. And before, when we made the plan to see each other on my birthday, I thought it was going to be the first birthday that I didn't cry. But I did. But I actually had a reason to cry this time, because my grandmother was dying. And I remember staying up almost all night trying to sleep. This was also the first time that we ever got to sleep next to each other. And it was nice for what it was. It was actually so nice. I didn't realize how peaceful sleeping next to another person was until I got to sleep next to him. And He fell asleep before me. Obviously, I wasn't going to be able to sleep. My anxiety kept me up most of that night. But he fell asleep before me because we all know I have insomnia. I've had it for years. But he fell asleep first, holding me. And I remember how it felt to have him pull me closer in his sleep. And I know he's a person that doesn't like necessarily touching people in his sleep, but he was holding on to me. For dear life, it felt like. Like, you know, like he didn't want to let go. And I love them for that. I also remember when he got too hot and he needed to not be so close to me. He adjusted himself in his sleep, and then he held my hand. And he just kept holding my hand because he didn't want to let go. And yeah, it was nice. It was pleasant. It was kind of beautiful because I was only able to fall asleep touching him, and it ended up being, I eventually fell asleep. I think I was holding his hand, or I was holding him in some capacity, and it was nice. It was pleasant. I didn't know I could sleep so peacefully just by having the right person next to me. And then we woke up the next morning, and we knew we were gonna be able to be with each other for long in the next day. But the sun was shining, and birds were chirping, and the sun was poking through the curtains of the hotel room that we were in. And it was beautiful, and I woke up next to the love of my life, who looked so beautiful. And they were there, and it was real. And this is a thing that happened. Something I thought would never happen. And it was happening. And I was just so happy, and I just knocked over all of my markers. The reason I'm telling you this right now is because when we're good, we're good. And when we're not together, neither of us are really good. And I didn't see him for a while because of a bunch of reasons that I'm not going to get into. But we picked the story back up in June, on this day after I had just told my mother about him. And she was so ecstatic to see me happy with someone, because she had never seen me happy with someone, and she had never seen this. And in every photo with him, I look so happy. I look the happiest I've ever looked in every single photo with him. Be it 5 years ago, or just a few months ago. Every single photo, I look so happy. And I remember telling him how well it went, and we were both kind of excited. And I went to work that day, and I was ready to kick some ass, like I had been the entire week. And we talked the whole day, and he was planning to come see me the next week, And I finally had some days off. For once. And then we were talking throughout the whole day, and I was just so happy to have him back. And so happy to be able to call him mine again. And it was nice. It was fulfilling. It was kind of soul healing in a way to be able to call this person that I love so much mine again. Because he was. He was mine again. Like, actually, and it felt that way. And we were trying again, and we were gonna get it right this time by the grace of fucking God and the universe. We were gonna get it right this time. That's what we kept telling ourselves. We were gonna get it right this time. We were telling each other that we were getting it right this time no matter what. And we tried our fucking hardest to get it right. And I would like to say that we both kind of failed, but who said it was over? Neither of us did. That's what I keep clinging to and thinking about. How neither of us said it was over. Neither of us. Because a relationship ends when one party says it's over, and neither of us said it. Because neither of us had the guts to say it, because neither of us wanted to give up. And that's what I've unpacked. That he kind of just put it on pause for a little bit. He asked me for some space, and I've had a hard time giving it to him because I have been having a very hard time, because on June 16th, I went into work that day after just telling my mother about my relationship. I went into work and I did the damn thing for hours. And then I went and did some inventory, and that's where I went wrong. Because the thing about predators and rapists are they know where to find you. And they know when to catch you. I was too happy that day. I was just too fucking happy. I was too happy. So, as I was doing my inventory, this bartender comes up to me and starts flirting with me. He doesn't tell me anything about him. Why would he? He had other intentions. But he talks to me. And he offers me a sample of a drink in a condiment cup. So about this big. And I take it. I'm on a high. I know it's not gonna get me drunk. So I take it. And that was my mistake that I made that day. I was too happy. And I was taken advantage of for being too happy. And he comes back with a second one and a third one. And he spiked those drinks. By the end of the second one, I'm not sober. I'm the most fucked up I had ever been in my life. And yet, here I am to still tell you this story. But I am the most fucked up that I have ever been in my life. And I didn't party in college. But I did have a stint in my life where I got drunk by myself, alone in my dorm room. And that time in my life was right after Ben left me. Right after 5 years ago today. And when they left me, they broke me. They broke my heart. And one of the things that I said was, no one will ever be able to break my heart like they did 5 years ago today, because 5 years ago today, we were happy. We didn't break up because we had issues with each other. We didn't break up because we just weren't feeling it. I'd argue we broke up because we were feeling it too much, and the distance was too much. And we broke up because his parents searched his room when he was in his driveway saying goodbye to me before I had to drive 4 hours back to my college from his house in Connecticut. We broke up because his parents searched his room and found out that we had sex and that I left some vodka gummy bears that I brought him. And they found them. That was kind of the only mistake that I made, was leaving them, because I have ADHD. I leave things in a lot of places. I think we both forgot about them. But that was why he broke up with me. And he broke up with me over Twitter DM. And now we're back to 2022 where we're trying again, and he left me alone again. He left me alone, and I've had to deal with being alone for the last couple of months. I've had to deal with, not having a day to look forward to wake up next to him, and I've had to deal with the uncertainty of him not coming back. But the thing about October 15th, 2017 is that is the day that I really became me. I have this journal entry called New Beginnings, dated September 26th, 2018. 1 year later. 1 year later. And some of you have probably seen this already. It's about Melissa dying and me coming out as non-binary. It's dated 1 year and 3 days after we started dating. And it's just the wrong date. Because, time really is a social construct, and this should be dated October 15th, 2017, but I was too busy crying that day to write things like this. I was too busy drinking alcohol to write things like this. This was one of my first journals for healing, and it was about me stopping drinking and continuing to grow and heal, and the urge I had to create again. However, this is also when I started going to shows, and I started traveling more, and really, really feeling like myself, and coming into my own power. And this journal It ends... When does it end? It ends in 2019, I believe. There's a picture of me holding a bottle. And then there's me getting my shit together and saying that my shit's together and that I felt okay. And the last entry in the journey of healing was 12/18/2019, which is around the time that 12/18/2018 was one of the last times him and I spoke before not speaking for 3 years. And it was us telling each other that we missed each other. And then he had to figure out if he missed the idea of me or if he missed me. And it wasn't the idea of me he missed. It was me, because we didn't speak for 3 years. A little bit after that. And then when we started speaking again, he instantly, pretty much, wanted me back. It was one of the first things he said to me. He wasn't opposed to the idea of getting back together. And then we saw each other in May of 2021. And in May of 2021, when we saw each other, we only had a couple of hours together, but one of the big topics of conversation was that it's always been you. That it's always been me. Because today, on October 15th, 2022, I can't even get the words right. That's how significant what I'm about to say is. I can say that I've been in love with him since I was 14 years old. And if you know me and you've heard the story before, I always start the story when I'm 16. I always start it in February, right around Valentine's Day. But the story starts a lot earlier than that. It starts October 2013, because I met him in October 2013, and my entire life I have loved the month of October, and I could never figure out why. And I think that him coming into my life in October 2013, right when shit was hitting the fan, and I was just a disaster. Makes sense that I'd argue my biggest living supporter came into my life. I have so many memories deeply rooted throughout my entire history of the last 10 years that are tied to him. That's why I'm coloring right now, because I couldn't get this one memory out of a Skype call that we had, I don't even remember when, where he was making fun of me. Ben was making fun of me because I was coloring. I think they were making music at the time, and I was coloring while watching, because that's what we'd do. We would sit on Skype for hours and just talk to each other while we did our other stuff. Like, I would color or, work on one of my projects, and they would work on one of their projects, and then we would show each other our projects. And today, I don't want to rip it. I drew a picture for him. He might never get it, but all of you, whoever chooses to watch this, will get to see it. It's a sunflower, and I'm not saying it's the best sunflower in the world because you just watched me draw it over the last however long this has been going on for. But, let me sign it. You know, I never got to give him any of my art either, that I either made for him or made in general. And that kind of hurts in a way, because there was so much art that I had made for him. I have a acrylic pour piece that it's just the colors that, like, he makes me feel. And that's the other thing that sucked about this whole thing. On June 16th, I got raped. And that was also the day that I started my relationship again with the love of my life. And that's something that happened to just me. But the strain of me getting raped and the strain it had on our relationship and has on our relationship was so intense that it pushed us away from each other in more than one way. And the ways it pushed us away from one another really sucked. It kind of created, like, this unnecessary distance between the two of us because we had this elephant in the room that we couldn't talk about. Kind of like the John Mulaney skit where there's a horse in the hospital. Yeah. Same concept. Except the horse in our hospital was me getting raped. And how it really only affected me. But hearing about it affected him. Because he was the first person I called after. And he was the first person that I physically spoke to. He wasn't the first person I told. That was Taylor. But he was the first person I physically spoke to about it. And it affected us because that morning was so good, and it was gonna be so good. And we just had to get through a couple more days before we were with each other. And this happened. I was taken down to the third floor of this venue, and I was raped by a bartender. I was taken down there with one purpose. And I said no, and he didn't care. And I asked him to use a condom, and he didn't care. When I got up, I saw it on the floor, unused. The next day, I had my oh fuck moment when I realized that I wasn't on birth control, and this man that I didn't know had just finished inside of me, and I had to panic at 3 in the morning and find birth control. Or it was midnight, I don't know. I think I stayed up until 3 a.m. trying to find birth control. And once I found it and ordered it to my pharmacy, like Plan B, I also ended up getting birth control. But when this Plan B was ordered and sent to my pharmacy didn't have it the next day when I went there. And the next day when I went there and I asked for my script, the pharmacist asked if it was a time-sensitive issue, and I said yes. So me and the pharmacist, we had to find one. We called about 6 different pharmacies asking if they had any plan B, till we finally found one. And they sent my script for it over, and I went and got it in my mother's car that I took because I tried to go to work that day and I couldn't because, well, I got a flat tire on my way to work that day because the universe didn't want me going back that soon. And everyone kind of forced me away from there for a little bit where I got raped. And I need to face my problems head on. That's just how I am. That's why my problem with Ben right now is he just won't face it head on, what he did to me, because of this trauma that I endured and he had to hear about, because it changed me as a person for a little bit. I was in a very deep dissociative state for most of my summer. I didn't have fun during my summer. I didn't see my friends all summer. I was by myself. The only person that I saw, well, there were like 3 people that I saw all summer. Occasionally I saw Taylor. Occasionally I saw Ben. Occasionally I saw my friend Ben. And occasionally I also saw my friend Kelsey, who has done a handful of tattoos on me. And that was it. And for the whole summer, I just had to eat away by people having fun and watching people have fun and not getting to experience it and living with this trauma alone and feeling so alone and so isolated from my scene and from my people and from physically my partner as well, because he lives 2.5 hours away from me. And you know, I put the pieces together more and more each day. Like, since then, like, all of this trauma. And it's like, wow, therapy works, but also, what the fuck? So, while I'm waiting for the love of my life to return to me, and I know he will eventually. I mean, I've been in love with him since I was 14 years old. He's one of my biggest inspirations. However, he always paints the picture like I'm the inspiring one. But realistically, I'm the one that's just, like, continuing to push through. Like, I don't fucking get a break often. And I still haven't gotten a break. And I just want to be happy. And I want him in my life when I'm happy. And I'm getting there, but it's very, very hard. And I wish I had his support right now because I need it. And he could probably use my support too, because I really am his biggest cheerleader, whether he wants to acknowledge it or not. Like, I really am. From being 14 years old and 15 years old and 16 years old on these Skype calls just watching him make music, to being 23 years old and still watching him make music on Discord. I love him. I always will. And I'm so happy that he's always supported me in the ways he has, because he inspires me to be me, and he was the first person to allow me and allow me to be me, even if he made fun of me for coloring and other things, because we'd bully each other. Because, you know, that's what we'd do to flirt with each other. We'd be a little mean to each other, because both really, really nice people. And I do love him a lot. And he inspired me to do what I'm gonna do. I want to thank them for it. Because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do, because I wouldn't have the inspiration and the strength to. And that's the thing. I wrote a journal entry going back to my birthday, a couple of weeks before my birthday, about how I hoped that we'd get it right before my nanny died. And I guess I can read it. It's right here. Where is it? Let's see. It's called Rear View. I wrote it on February 21st, 2022. I wish we would have gotten it right. I wish you could have met my nanny and make her so happy I found someone to love. She's 93 years old and asks me if I have someone. I can't tell her about you. You aren't mine, but I do love you. You would probably like her. She's a small Catholic lady that only loved once, but has so much love and kindness to share. She would probably love you. She would be so excited to see the person who fell for her youngest granddaughter. She's never met a love of mine. I feel bad she hasn't. Maybe she'll get to meet you one day, my love. And she didn't. But that's okay. No, it's not, but sometimes the universe doesn't want things to go perfectly. There was a reason that he didn't get to meet her, and it was probably because of his habit of leaving. Because I wouldn't have the guts to tell her if he left. I wouldn't. Because if she was still alive and I got to have him meet her, and he left again like he did, I wouldn't have had the guts to tell her. I wouldn't have had the guts to tell anyone. I had to tell my mom and my dad and my aunt this time, because it was so bad, him leaving. Well, the way he left me alone was so bad. He left me alone in a hotel room when I just needed help and support, especially from my significant other. And I wish that I could have convinced him to stay. Just for the rest of that night. Because if he stayed that night, I probably would have realized just how badly I was doing on my own. I'm still doing pretty shit on my own. I'm just doing better. Because that's what I've had to teach myself. I've only ever had myself. And that's something that I've never gotten the chance to unteach myself. How to ask for help. And how to get the help I actually need over the help that everyone thinks that I need. And he was giving me the help that I actually needed without asking. Which was nice. It was refreshing. It was beautiful in a way. Because he was helping me help me. Part of it was just the presence, and part of it was the calling me beautiful and literally kissing the bruises on my skin from this violent, brutal assault that I had just been through. And it was like maybe 2 weeks after I got raped. I went to the store and I went and bought a bunch of bras to feel better about myself. So I could take pictures of myself in them and feel better about myself eventually. And I remember messaging him and being like, hey, I know you're not gonna say no to this, but can you just like if I take a bunch of pictures in these bras and send them to you, will you just hype me up? Because I feel like shit. And I just needed him to hype me up. He totally did. It was totally exciting for him too, and I know it, but even stupid shit like that he'd do for me. And I know when I really need him, and I ask him, he'd do it, because it's him, and it's me. And when we're together, we can kind of do really, really great things. And I hope that eventually we get to do some great things again, because I've got really big plans. And so I guess I'll finally tell you what Iris Labs is because I finally got the words right. So, Iris Labs is my biggest project to date. It's gonna be a record label and an art gallery, and eventually a recording space as well. Because it's for me to do all the things that I like to do myself. And I want to help my friends be able to do the things that they want to do. So I'll be handling the back end stuff. Well, my favorite people, some of my biggest inspirations, just get to keep doing what they do. And it'll also serve as a community space. That's what the lab part is. Ben gave me the name, but I ran with it because it's a good fucking name. And I hope that he comes back to be a part of it at some point, because it's gonna be really cool. Because it's me, and I can do anything. And it'll serve as a community space for marginalized groups to be able to pursue creative endeavors. Because I've had a hard time being able to pursue creative endeavors. Even just sitting somewhere and being able to draw some squares. Or paint some things and not have to worry about, you know, anything else for a little bit. And it'll also serve as a way for me to get back into music in the way that I've always been into it. So eventually I'll release some music, but for now I gotta work on the business stuff and getting there. And I'd like to thank a lot of people, but this video goes out to one of my favorite people, Ben, because he's always seen me for me, and even if we're not speaking, he's always inspired me to be better, not for him, but for me. And I love him, and I love myself, but I really love the person that I am when I'm with him. And he doesn't have to physically be talking to me for me to be that person either. And I always wondered back in 2016 when I lost some of my inspiration where it went, and I think he took it with him when he disappeared from my life for a little bit. But he gave it back to me this time, and he left me with it this time because he left me alone in that hotel room, but I was surrounded by things that I loved. And I was there with this guy. I didn't have this guy last time. You're only 3. So yeah, that's what it is. Iris Labs Live. It's for me. It's for my friends. It's for the people that inspire me. And the kitties that inspire me. Because, let's be real, I don't let a man or a non-binary person or a woman or anyone really affect my life. Except this guy. He's just a little guy. And yeah, that's the whole thing. That's the whole chapter, and that's what started it. And Jasper has to come and put his face in the shot. But I got it handled. Or I will. And thanks, Ben, for inspiring me again. I'll talk to you soon. 3 cheers for 5 years.